Welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Real Estate Investing. This is Sharon Bornholt, your host, and my guest today is Whitney Nicely from Knoxville, Tennessee. Whitney has gone from selling dump trucks to being a successful real estate investor. She bought her first property in 2009, and she's purchased 19 houses, at least 19 apartment buildings. That number's probably gone up since I wrote this, and 7 chunks of land in less than 3 years. In addition to being a successful real estate investor, she's a wife, and like me, she is passionate about teaching others this business, especially women. So welcome to the show, Whitney.
Thanks for having me, Sharon. This is going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. So I am really excited to dive into our topics today. So why don't we start out, dump trucks to real estate. Now that's an interesting segue. So why don't we start out and have you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
So I am the fourth generation entrepreneur in my family. My mom's dad's dad started dump trucking in 1939. And when I graduated from UTK, go Vols, in 2007, I went to work for the family company and didn't really know what I was going to do when I got there, but I got certified to be an underground miner and to teach our dump truck drivers how to be surface miners. I started doing the drug test, the alcohol test, and then I got to, our salesman was out one day or something, and somebody came by to buy a truck, and I just went out there and started talking to this guy, and I'd been flipping furniture, like going to auctions and then posting stuff on Craigslist and, you know, making a couple $100 here and there, and, you know, I didn't realize I was learning sales, but I was.
Yeah.
So I went out and talked to this, you know, good old boy who showed up to buy this old nasty dump truck, and I got to talking to him and I sold the thing.
Oh my word.
And I had no idea what I was doing, but then my papa figured out that these dirty old men kind of like talking to me and buying these trucks from me, and so we figured out how to make it work, and I started going to auctions all over the Southeast, buying dump trucks, bringing them home, cleaning them up, and selling them for more money.
Well, I'm almost 100% sure you have a unique story here. So I have to tell you, I've been doing this a while, and I have not met someone with your story, but that just goes to prove that if you can sell one thing, you can sell anything. And people in our business, they often go, no, I'm not in sales. Well, yeah, everybody's in sales. You got to sell yourself or sell your house or something. So what was your first strategy when you started out? What was your first strategy?
Cash, buy and hold. I went to auctions and bought land. I was actually getting my auctioneer's license, getting my real estate license, and you have to work under a broker and auctioneer for so long. And I was just serving my time, hanging out at a real estate auction. And next thing I know, I was bidding on a property, and then I won it. And $1,200 later, I have 1.07 acres in Decatur, Tennessee, and I was a real estate investor.
Oh, wow.
And when we got to closing on that thing later that week, because it was just $1,200, they said that I bought it at a foreclosure auction, it turned out. I didn't even know where I was or what I was doing. I was just getting my time in. And the lady that had been foreclosed on the property had agreed to pay $69,000 for this thing. So I thought, all right, well, I'll just keep it and hold on to it. But that got a bug up my tail, and I started buying everything I could for $1,000 that went through the auction. So that's how I got all that land, is I just started buying land, and then I bought a couple pieces and started renting it back out and got all my money back.
So how'd you do that?
Well, I bought a half-acre piece of industrial land at auction, $1,500. And I started renting the driveway to my neighbor so he could access the back of his property. I started renting the driveway for $250 a month.
Nice.
So 6 months later, I had all my money back, and now I've got cash flow, $250 a month. And I actually worked it out on accident to be what they call a triple net lease, which I didn't know at the time, but I gave him all the maintenance of the driveway, and I gave him my taxes every year. Just like $50 or something, but it was my negotiating.
So they didn't have to buy the land, though. They can just rent the land.
They could just rent the driveway, just access to the back of theirs. And now I actually have the land rented also to their competition for $500. So I get $750 a month off a $1,500 investment that I've had for 3 years.
Nice, nice. So are your strategies still the same today?
No, I'll pay cash for houses. I moved from land into houses and then from houses into apartments. But I after I bought those 2 pieces of land, I started getting into houses, and I spent all of my life savings and all of my brother's life savings to buy these 2 houses, but there was still more out there to buy. So I went to Ron LeGrand's boot camp and learned about lease options and owner financing. And so I went from, 2 pieces of land and 2 houses to 14 houses the next year. And then the apartments the next year and more houses. And I've done over 57 deals, 58 deals now.
Okay, so yeah, so your numbers are much bigger now than what I actually had on there.
Well, those are just the ones that I still have. I've gone through and done some assignments, some have sold, some have come and gone. But I've only bought 3 houses this year, but I paid $2,500 for one house, I paid $3,000 for another, and then I splurged and paid $5,500 for another house.
So are those buy and holds?
I bought them with cash, and then I've sold all 3 of them on lease options. So I've got monthly income coming in on them. The first one I sold for $12,000. They put $5,000 down, so I used that $5,000 to buy the 2 houses, the $2,500 and the $3,000. So I have $500 in 2 houses, and then they pay rent for 2 months. And now I'm free and clear in both houses.
Free and clear. So your cash flow definitely then influences what you decide to do.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Well, and obviously you've also figured out this whole thing about creative finance, and that is a piece that people, they just get so hung up on it. Let's talk about the simplest way for people to think about it. You said lease option. So let's talk about some of the creative finance that you do.
So when we say lease option, it's just a really fancy rental agreement that lets me buy the house in a certain amount of time. That's it. I can rent the house. I can do whatever I want to with the house. And all I have to do is buy it in 5 or 10 years. It's really not any more complicated than that. Everybody wants to really overcomplicate it, but that's it.
That's it. And you can do that very often. You can get into it with very little money down. And in fact, if you do put money down, you can ask the next person to give you your money back and then some as their option fee.
Most of the time, I tell my sellers that it's going to be 3 months before I'll make the first payment. But if I get somebody in the house beforehand, then I'll just start making the payments that month. And whenever it is, I'll use that money as my down payment.
Now, do you find
so it works both ways?
Yeah, right. So do you find it hard to have the conversation with the seller that you're going to lease option their house and you're going to lease option it to someone else? Do they ever get antsy or want to back out of the deal because you're doing that?
Not if you're marketing to the right people.
Okay, let's talk about that.
So if you find people that have an empty house that they're making payments on, there's some friction there, whether it's their wife nagging about how much money they're spending, or whether it's their husband talking about, well, I could have bought a new boat
with that
we didn't have to make that payment. But between them, they just don't have the time or energy or experience to be a good, effective landlord, and they don't want to be responsible for being a landlord. So when I find those people and I say, don't worry, I'm just going to take all of this away from you, they hug my neck. They have no trouble with me making money. They encourage me to make money and to do the best that I can, because I have solved their problem, and they could care less how that affects me or benefits me. As long as I am helping them, they do not care about me.
Yeah. So is that your primary investing is lease options? That's a great, and I think you hit the nail on the head. You've got to have the right person, but like every other type of group of motivated sellers, you'll get a bunch of calls till you get that yes. And I think people tend to get discouraged too easily.
I do too. When I started, I had a Babe Ruth quote on my phone, and that may be kind of weird, but he had a quote that, every time he struck out, he was just one at bat closer to a yes, to a home run. And, I think he even had it averaged out, I can't remember now, 8 or 9 or 10 strikeouts, because he was always swinging for the fences.
Yeah, right.
Every time he struck out, he was one more at bat closer to a home run.
That's a great analogy. Yeah, because that is true. And I tell people, the faster you get over the no's, and like we talked a little bit before the show about the whole the whole thing of follow up. Once you get it through your head, like a friend of mine says 80% of his deals come after somebody's told him no. You really have to grasp onto that piece of information and go, maybe they're not saying no, they're just saying not now. Or if they are saying no, it's on to next, because you're not going to get everyone, but that's really a great way to think about it.
I appreciate the no's. Okay, so why are you telling me no? Do you need a cash offer? Do you have something else going on? Is there something that I confused you about? Like, a no is a learning opportunity. It's not something to get your feelings hurt over.
Right.
It just means, okay, not right now.
Not right now. Yeah, I agree with that completely. So tell me you told me about your first deal. What does your typical deal look like today?
Today, I am laser focused. I don't take many calls. I have started some yellow letter campaigns, and I'm letting my husband answer those calls this time. I am really mouthy on Facebook, though. And on my personal page, I'm constantly just more or less asking questions or telling little stories. And you'll be surprised at how many people are just watching, and they won't comment, they won't like, but they'll send you a private message and be like, hey, I got something. We need to talk. All right, fine. When do you want to talk? And they're like, well, come by and I'll just sign the paperwork. I know you do this. Okay.
Okay. I'll be right over.
That sounds pretty good. And so when you, and I tell everybody I talk to, when you can educate people on what you do and what you look for, then the people that don't fit you disqualify themselves. And so you don't spend a lot of time with a bunch of tire kickers. They disqualify themselves, or they say, I know somebody you need to talk to.
You know, I teach branding a lot, branding and marketing and how that all fits together. And I tell people, marketing is how you get the leads, and branding is why they choose you. So there are so many ways to do that. And I have met the greatest people on Facebook, but like you, I'm clear about why I'm on there. Sure, I do the normal social stuff, but I have all of the big real estate people are marketing through Facebook and through the other social media platforms. Facebook is awesome for real estate. It's just awesome.
I agree. And I don't really do many boosted posts. Like when I have a house that I'm trying to get somebody, a tenant buyer in there, that's the only time I really use boosted posts. Otherwise, I can get plenty of seller leads just from my real friends on Facebook.
Well, now I'm going to have to go stalk out your Facebook. So look for my requests. So yeah, right. I'm always looking for people though to, I really believe in the power of social media. And
me too.
You have a brand. That's how I found you, because you have a brand, and hopefully we will all, you will find the people you're meant to work with. And if you are true to your brand and you don't try to be like, I can't be you and you can't be me. There's an old saying that you got to be yourself, because at the end of the day, everybody else is already taken. So if you just be yourself, you hit the nail on the head. You will attract the people that are meant to work with you. And that's not everybody. That's not the whole world. So that's something that you've learned that most people don't know.
I struggle with that though, because I feel like the whole world does have an opportunity to become a real estate investor, and it's not that difficult, and it's not very complicated either. And I want to help, like you, as many people as I can, but for whatever reason, I'm just not their person, and that's okay.
Well, and that's okay. You have to know that you're not meant for everybody. So, so you basically, would you say Facebook is your main marketing source? You don't do a lot of direct mail? Or do you have other marketing avenues that you do?
When I have a house that I'm trying to sell or lease option, I'll put bandit signs out in my little honey hole, and I will buy houses off a bandit sign trying to sell a house.
Sell a house, yes.
If I put bandit signs out that said, hey, Whitney buys houses, they'll be like, cool. But if I put one out that says, hey, I got one, and I buy houses, they're like, oh, sweet, because the proof's in the pudding. I already bought one. Somebody else is there. There's social proof there. There's not just words there. It's that I actually did this and now I'm trying to sell it. So come on in.
So come on in. Yeah, that's a great point there. You know, I found that strategy to be more effective too than just putting out bandit signs. I didn't.
And Craigslist is the same way. I can advertise to find sellers all day long on Craigslist and get crickets. But the moment I say, hey, I got this. Oh, and if you got something similar, call me. Boom.
Boom. Yeah, that's a really great point there. So everybody has a worst deal. So do you have a worst deal?
I have the only deal so far, knock on wood, that I've lost money on. Yes. And it was at an auction because I was paying cash and I didn't know anything about owner financing or lease options because they don't teach that in real estate school.
No.
And they don't talk, or they certainly don't talk a lot about that in regular real estate world.
Right.
So you really have to get into like this kind of underworld, you know, to find out the good stuff of how to really make money. So I bought a house at auction. My brother went and looked at it. He was like, don't buy this. Please don't buy this. And I was like, yeah. So how much should we bid on it? And he was like, 10,000. Don't bid anymore. And I was like, so 15? Okay, I'll put in 15. And he was like, oh, this is going to be a disaster. So I put in 15 and we won.
Oh my.
And then I went over to look at the house. And the first thing that happened is I was attacked by fleas. And then when I was walking across the carpet to try to get out of this house, you could see the water squishing out of the carpet every time I took a step. And then it was built before there was indoor plumbing. So the bathroom, if you could call it that, was definitely just like an afterthought. And I didn't realize how bad this part of town was. Like I thought, all right, cool. There's probably a lot going on. I've never been to that part of town. We'll try it out. Wrong. I could not get anybody to buy this. I tried calling wholesalers. I didn't even know who wholesalers were, but I saw the I buy houses signs. I tried calling them and offloading this house onto them. I actually got spooked over there at the house one day and had one of my cop buddies come and escort me while I was trying to show the house. And he was like, don't ever come back over here by yourself. I know this part of town, Whitney. You don't need to be here. And I was
not
like,
a good area.
It was just bad. So we ended up putting it back up for auction and we got $11,000. And but you know, for $4,000, I learned a whole lot of lessons and I didn't get raped or mugged or kidnapped while I was over there. So, you know, all in, all done, that was fine.
Yeah. And you know, sometimes that's exactly how you have to look at it. It was a really expensive seminar, but you got the lesson and on next.
It really told me I needed to really figure some things out that other people knew a lot more than I did. Even though I was raised in an entrepreneur family by real estate investors, there was a lot more out there that I hadn't learned and I didn't know. And so that's when I really dove into, there's something else that nobody's told me.
So how long have you been doing this now?
I bought my first piece at auction December of 12. So I'm coming up on 5 years, but I've been doing the lease options since 14.
Okay. Okay. So that's pretty long. So let me ask you this about you. Do you have an active RIA in your group or in your area? I thought you did. So how many, do you all have a lot of members or?
I do not think our RIA is as big as yours. The Knox RIA, we may have, gosh, I don't even know. I'm afraid to guess, but maybe 100 on the roster and 50 regularly show up. We had a women real estate investor meeting and we had 52 people show up for that meeting.
Nice.
And I spoke on the panel there.
Nice. Yeah, we do not have that here, and that's something that I've thought a lot about. So you had that many come out for that. Interesting.
And it was mostly men coming just to hear the other side.
Oh, you're kidding.
It was mostly men in the audience. And I promoted that thing to every woman I knew. And so I don't know, you tell me, why do women say, no, that's okay, my husband will take care of the real estate?
I don't know. They obviously have not met us.
I'm like, I have to go now. I don't know if I can be around you.
I know. You know, it's an educational thing. And I've been at this a long time now, I joined my RIA in 1998. It took me about a year to buy my first deal. And I look around that room and a lot of the same women were there then. And they still haven't bought a house, or maybe they have one, or their husband has bought a few and they come. There's one lady that actually will come and read at the RIA meeting. She's not interested, but she supports her husband. And I'm going, you know, maybe you need a different hobby or something. it's not for everybody, but why torture yourself that way? But I don't understand why women are so reluctant to get in the business, because it's the perfect business. If
It really is.
You have babies, you can work around their schedule. Your kids go to elementary school, you need to be home to pick them up. Great, you can do that. You know, you need money for college. Oh, real estate, that's the thing. So I'm stymied all the time as to why they don't get it.
I preach a little bit sometimes on being a Proverbs 31 woman. I don't know in Kentucky, but in Tennessee for sure, everybody wants to be a Proverbs 31 woman. And verse 16 says that she goes to inspect a field and she buys it. With her earnings, she plants a vineyard. So to me, a Proverbs 31 woman is a real estate investor. And then she creates generational wealth for her kids. Like, that is the best verse in the Bible to me, and it speaks directly to me and every woman that I want to talk to. I'm like, you have to be an investor to get to a Proverbs 31 woman.
to get to there. So what is it they think it means?
They skip it. I have so many books and Bible studies on being a Proverbs 31 woman. And the chapter on verse 16 is always the smallest one, because they say, yeah, go buy houses. And coming up on 17... and they just skip it. They just glaze right over it. And so I know God's put it in my heart that I'm going to have to write that book.
Well, I mean, that's another whole conversation, because the event that I do is called Branding Books and Beaches. We did it at the beach, but it's all about the part that your book has in building your brand.
I'm in. The books that I have written right now all reference Proverbs 31:16, and it's my branding is she buys it. So I'm working on it slowly and surely, but I guess we need to take a beach trip and get it figured out. Interesting.
And we'll have to have another conversation about this, because the gal that I teach that with, Barbara Grassi, that's what she does.
I love Barbara. I had lunch with her in Tampa.
Oh, you did? Okay. So yeah, I just talked to her this morning. I think she did say she knew you. So yeah, she's my wild child friend. So yeah, I can't believe I'm saying that on the podcast. But anyway, what advice do you have we won't say for any newbie, let's say for a woman that thinks she can't do this? What's your best advice, and how can she kick her fear to the curb?
I was raised by a very strong mother. She's an introvert, but she is very strong and very proud to be a woman and to get out there and make some things happen. And I think all women weren't raised that way. They were raised to be nice and polite and do what they were told and not, challenge anything or anything. And so a lot of women, especially, find me or I appear some way, and they have a little bit of a little girl inside that want to be loud and proud like me. And they can kind of, grab onto that, and somehow that propels them into making offers and just almost pretending, what would Whitney do? How would this go? And so even if it's not me, if it's you, if it's somebody else, Barbara, she's an investor too, there's some piece of that gumption that some of us have that other ladies really want. And I don't want to say fake it till you make it, but really embody somebody if that's not exactly who you think you are. But also, I would want to know, why do you feel like you can't do that? Who told you that you couldn't? Who told you wouldn't be a good investor? Who's been keeping you down or telling you that this wouldn't work? We talked about our men earlier. I had a boyfriend that told me this wouldn't work, and now he's my husband, and he does, I give him a little bit of that every morning for breakfast. But it's
we're all good with that, so. Well, it's a tough conversation, and I don't really understand it. I know that the women who are in real estate, who have this passion, who have really walked through the fire in some cases to get where they are in a class of their own. But I would encourage everybody to know that this could be you. I mean, and maybe real estate is not your thing, it's our thing. But whatever your thing is, you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone to really excel at your thing, whatever that is.
I would also say, start small. I mean, I started with $1,200.
Mm-hmm.
Most professional women have $1,200 that they would spend on a purse and not think twice about it. But when I say go buy some land with that $1,200, suddenly they get all these red flags coming up. You know, I won't find anything, that won't work, I'll end up in a bad deal, and blah, 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 blah. How do you know? Have you tried? Because I've done it a lot, and it's really fun.
Yeah, it is really fun. Of course, we love this business. So last question here. Tell me about your favorite book you've read lately.
My favorite book is Miracle in the Mountains. It's about Martha Berry. She started Berry College in Rome, Georgia. And my husband lives in Rome, Georgia, so I'm here a lot. But Berry College has the largest land campus in the world. Any college, university, nobody has more land than Berry does, and they've actually sold some off. But throughout the early 1900s, 1910s, 1920s, 30s, Martha Berry was hanging out with some really cool people like Henry Ford and some presidents and their wives and some other women that we recognize. She was hanging out with them, but then she would come back home to North Georgia and just live kind of like under the radar. So she missed all the history books, but she is one of the most amazing women, and she got so much done. She was an amazing real estate investor who started a college.
Oh, wow. Interesting story. So tell me the name again. I'm going to actually write this down. What's the name of it?
Miracle in the Mountains.
Miracle in the Mountains.
Yes.
Okay.
And it tells the story of her starting this college and fighting the big boy system and all these different things. She was absolutely amazing. And actually Chick-fil-A owns part of Berry College now.
Oh, really? So she was a warrior.
She was.
She's a warrior. Okay. Well, Whitney, this has been so much fun. I'm so happy I have a new friend now, and we'll have to do this again. But folks, what's the best way, Whitney, for folks to reach you?
My website is whitneynicely.com, and from there you can join my Facebook group or check out if I'm going to be in your area doing a workshop or order the books or, whatever, whitneynicely.com.
Awesome. Well, Whitney, thanks again. And folks, I'll be back soon with another episode of Let's Talk Real Estate Investing. Thanks.